The Lazarus Effect. Chapter 1, The Silent Descent. The first tremor wasn't a tremor at all. It was a hesitation in the rhythm of the rain, a momentary hush that sent a shiver down Anya's spine, despite the stifling heat of the Delhi summer. She glanced out the lab window, squinting through the grime-streaked glass. The familiar cityscape, a chaotic tapestry of concrete and steel, seemed to hold its breath for a beat before the downpour resumed with renewed fury. Anya sighed, the sound lost in the low hum of the centrifuge. Another sleepless night hunched over her research, another dead end. Years of ostracism by the scientific community had become as familiar as the sting of Delhi's polluted air. Her unorthodox theories about latent human potential, fueled by the cryptic messages etched on the ancient artifact, had earned her nothing but scorn and dismissive laughter. Yet the pull of the artifact remained, a constant thrumming in the back of her mind. It wasn't just the inscription, an intricate pattern of swirling lines that seemed to resonate with a primal part of her being. It was the stories, the whispers passed down through generations, of a time when humanity wasn't the ostracized underdog of the galactic stage. Tonight, though, exhaustion finally won. Anya slumped into her chair, rubbing her gritty eyes. A low, ominous rumble shook the building, rattling the lab equipment. This wasn't thunder, it was far deeper, a vibration that traveled through her bones. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Grasping for the desk, she stumbled to the window again. The rain had stopped. The city lights, usually twinkling like fireflies against the inky canvas of the night, were dimmed by an enormous shadow. Anya's breath caught in her throat. High above, dwarfing even the colossal skyscrapers, hung a colossal vessel, a leviathan of obsidian metal that seemed to suck the light from the world. Its surface was etched with menacing symbols, pulsing with an eerie red glow. A wave of nausea washed over Anya. No ship, no satellite, no human invention could be that big. Terror, raw and primal, gripped her. Panic screams erupted below, a cacophony swallowed by the immensity of the alien ship. Anya's hand instinctively tightened around the worn leather satchel hanging on the back of her chair. Inside rested the artifact, its secrets suddenly more vital than ever. In the face of this overwhelming power, this chilling reminder of humanity's insignificance, Anya felt a flicker of defiance. Humans may be ostracized, may be ridiculed, but they were not weak. She wouldn't let them be weak. Anya straightened, her gaze fixed on the monstrous ship. This wasn't the end. This was the beginning. Chapter 2, Ashes to Rebirth. The news reports blared a relentless stream of panicked voices and shaky footage. The colossal alien ship, christened Harbinger by the media in a morbid twist of humor, hung ominously above Earth. Anya watched from her cramped apartment, the single room now a refuge from the chaos engulfing the city. The artifact nestled beside her on the threadbare mattress, a silent promise in the encroaching darkness. Sleep was impossible. Every boom from the distant explosions reverberated through her bones. As dawn painted a sickly orange on the smoke-filled sky, the news finally announced something new. A horrifying plague was ravaging the Quoth Armada. Relief, however, was a fleeting visitor. The reports warned Earth to brace for desperate attacks from a weakened but desperate enemy. Anya felt a tremor of anger. The galaxy had ostracized humanity for generations, relegating them to the fringes. Now, faced with their own destruction, the Quoth would likely unleash their fury on a planet they deemed insignificant. But something lurked at the edges of her anger, a flicker of curiosity. What kind of plague could cripple an advanced interstellar civilization? The answer arrived in the form of Dr. Sato, a fellow researcher and one of the few who had shown Anya a shred of respect. He burst into her apartment, his face etched with worry. "Anya, have you seen the reports?" he gasped, his voice hoarse. Anya simply gestured towards the flickering news screen. Sato slumped onto a rickety chair. This changes everything. Do you have any idea what this could mean?" Anya shook her head, a bitter taste in her mouth. Years of her research dismissed as heresy, and now, when it might actually matter, they came crawling back. But she wasn't here to play politics. "We need to study the plague," she said, her voice firm. Sato looked hesitant. "It's highly contagious, potentially lethal. And so is the Quoth invasion, Anya countered. If we can understand the plague, we might find a way to use it against them. Or better yet, find a way to immunize ourselves. A flicker of hope ignited in Sato's eyes. You think your theories about human potential might come into play? Anya didn't smile, not yet. There was too much at stake. We need to test the artifact on live samples, infected and healthy tissues. See if it triggers any response. Sato's face paled. Human testing? Anya, that's unethical, highly risky. We're out of time, Anya insisted, her voice low but resolute. We can either sit here and wait for the Quoth to wipe us out, or we can try something, anything, to fight back. Sato's gaze lingered on the artifact. Anya saw the flicker of fear mingle with a desperate hope. After a long, tense silence, he finally spoke. All right, Anya, we do this. But if there's the slightest risk, there will be precautions, Anya assured him, a fierce determination rising within her. They were ostracized, yes, underestimated, certainly. But humanity, despite everything, was resilient. And Anya, with the weight of a civilization on her shoulders and the whispers of the artifact in her ear, was determined to prove it. Chapter 3. Awakening the Lazarus. The makeshift lab was a hive of nervous activity. Anya and Sato, joined by a small team of hastily recruited scientists, meticulously examined samples of the Quoth plague under microscopes, their faces illuminated by the harsh glare of overhead lights. Days blurred into nights, fueled by stale coffee and a gnawing sense of urgency. The artifact lay on a pedestal in the center of the room, its intricate carvings now imbued with a new significance. Anya found herself drawn to it again and again, tracing the lines with her fingertips as if seeking answers etched into the very metal. Despite all the advanced equipment, it was the artifact that thrummed with a strange energy, a silent promise of untapped potential. Finally, after days of tireless work, they achieved a breakthrough. The alien plague, unlike anything they had ever encountered, targeted a specific genetic sequence in the host, essentially shutting down their regenerative abilities. However, in humans, a dormant gene, seemingly triggered by the plague itself, was exhibiting a counterreaction. The human body was fighting back, attempting to heal and regenerate at an accelerated rate. The discovery was met with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The implications were enormous. But could it be harnessed? Could humans truly unlock this dormant power to fight back against the Quoth? We need to test it, Anya said, her voice tight with nervous excitement. Sato chewed on his lip, his brow furrowed. On a human subject? Anya, this is uncharted territory. The risks. We can't afford to be cautious anymore, Anya insisted. The Quoth are escalating their attacks. We need to know if this works. Their team was divided. Some, like Anya, were desperate to take the next step. Others, like Dr. Sharma, a veteran virologist, voiced concerns about the ethical implications and the potential for unforeseen side effects. What if it goes wrong? Dr. Sharma asked, her voice quavering. What if it turns the subject something else? The room fell silent. The air crackled with tension. Anya stared at the glowing artifact, the silence amplifying the soft hum emanating from it. A guttural cough shattered the stillness. They all turned to see Dr. Ramirez, a young biochemist, clutching his stomach, his face pale with sweat. I think I've been exposed, he stammered, his voice weak. Panic flared in Anya's chest. Ramirez had been working directly with a highly concentrated sample of the plague. Get him to the quarantine zone, Sato barked, already leading the way. Anya's gaze darted between Ramirez's deteriorating form and the artifact. A desperate resolve hardened her features. This was it. There was no turning back. Prepare the artifact, she said, her voice surprisingly steady. I'll be the test subject. A collective gasp filled the room. Anya met every gaze, her eyes blazing with defiance. They needed a miracle. And maybe, just maybe, the artifact held the key to human survival. Chapter 4. Humanity Unchained. The straps felt like they were biting into Anya's skin, but she barely registered the discomfort. Her heart hammered a frantic rhythm against her ribs as she stared at the artifact, bathed in the sterile white light of the lab. The scientists, their faces etched with a mixture of fear and hope, scurried around her, making final adjustments. Dr. Sato knelt beside her, his usually stoic face creased with worry. Anya, you sure about this? Anya took a deep breath, forcing a smile. As sure as I'll ever be, Sato. Let's do this. Sato nodded curtly, his gaze lingering on her for a beat too long. Then with a grim nod to the technicians, he activated the machine. A surge of energy, sharp and electric, lanced through Anya's body. She cried out, the straps digging into her flesh as she convulsed. The lab dissolved into a kaleidoscope of swirling colors, the screams of the scientists fading into a distant hum. Pain, raw and primal, consumed her. Then, as abruptly as it began, the pain subsided. Anya gasped, taking in a shaky breath. Her body felt different, lighter somehow. She flexed her fingers, a sense of wonder replacing the terror. Anya, can you hear me? Sato's voice sounded strained, laced with relief. Anya blinked, her vision clearing. She sat up, ignoring the protests of the straps. I hear you loud and clear, Sato. Her voice sounded stronger, more vibrant. Sato's eyes widened as he ran a scanner over her body. The readings, they're off the charts. Your vitals, your cellular regeneration. Anya wiggled her fingers experimentally. A small cut on her hand, a remnant from a previous experiment, seemed to be closing before her very eyes. Anya stared at it, her heart pounding with a newfound sense of power. Let me see what I can do, she said, a dangerous glint in her eyes. Sato hesitated, then unbuckled the straps. Anya rose, her movements fluid and effortless. She walked towards a metal table where a slab of raw quoth flesh, scavenged from a downed drone, lay sizzling under a medical heat lamp. With a newfound confidence, Anya plunged her hand into the searing heat. A gasp rose from the scientists, but Anya barely flinched. She held her hand there for a full 10 seconds, the quoth flesh beginning to char and smoke. Then she pulled her hand back. A faint singe mark marred her skin, but it was already fading, replaced by healthy tissue. The scientists erupted in a cacophony of cheers and excited chatter. Anya stood tall amidst the celebration, a reluctant heroine. This power, this gift from the artifact, was a heavy burden to bear. But it was also a chance to fight back, to prove humanity's worth on the galactic stage. This changes everything, Sato said, his voice thick with emotion. We can teach others. We can train them. Anya nodded, a grim smile playing on her lips. They would train. They would fight. The harbinger still loomed above, a symbol of alien arrogance. But humanity wouldn't be ostracized any longer. They were awake now, and they were coming for their revenge. Chapter 5, A New Dawn. Weeks turned into months. The initial euphoria of Anya's success had given way to a grim reality. The Quoth, though weakened by the plague, remained a formidable enemy. Their attacks, while less frequent, were deadlier, utilizing devastating energy weapons that carved through human defenses with ease. Anya, the unwilling symbol of humanity's newfound power, found herself thrust into the role of a leader. She trained others, men and women from all walks of life, awakening the dormant Lazarus gene within them. The makeshift lab became a training ground, a crucible where fear was forged into defiance. One such trainee was Rajiv, a scrawny teenager with eyes that burned with a fierce determination. Anya watched him struggle through grueling physical exercises, sweat dripping from his brow. He wasn't the strongest, but his will was unyielding. You're almost there, Rajiv, Anya encouraged, her voice firm but kind. Rajiv grunted, pushing himself further, his body trembling with exertion. Finally, with a cry of exertion, he managed to lift the heavy metal crate, a feat that would have been impossible before the awakening. Anya smiled, a flicker of pride warming her chest. They weren't soldiers, not yet, but they were learning, adapting, becoming something more than the ostracized underdogs of the galaxy. Then came the news. The Quoth were deploying a new weapon, a colossal energy cannon aimed directly at a major human city. Panic rippled through the resistance, a stark reminder of their vulnerability. We can't let them fire that thing, Sato said, his voice grim. We need to launch a preemptive strike. Anya knew he was right, but a preemptive strike meant risking everything, sending a ragtag force of awakened humans against a heavily fortified Quoth base. Anya gathered her trainees, their faces etched with a mixture of fear and resolve. She looked at Rajiv, his young face set in a determined mask. These weren't soldiers, but they were all humanity had. This is it, she said, her voice ringing with a quiet confidence. We take the fight to them. We show them what humanity is made of. The attack was a whirlwind of chaos and courage. Anya, leading the charge, pushed her newfound abilities to the limit, deflecting energy blasts and weaving through hails of gunfire. Rajiv, fueled by a desperate hope, fought with a ferocity that belied his age. The battle raged for hours. One by one, humans fell, their sacrifices paving the way for others. Just when it seemed all was lost, Anya, with a burst of superhuman speed, reached the cannon control room. Inside, a lone Quoth soldier, his face contorted in a snarl of hate, aimed the weapon at the glowing human city. Anya lunged, tackling him just as he fired. The energy blast surged, but Anya, using her enhanced reflexes, managed to deflect it skyward. The blast harmlessly detonated in the atmosphere, a silent testament to human defiance. The surviving Quoth soldiers surrendered, their arrogance shattered by the unexpected ferocity of the awakened humans. News of the victory spread like wildfire, igniting a spark of hope across the devastated planet. Anya stood amidst the smoking ruins of the Quoth base, exhaustion gnawing at her. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. She glanced at the sky, where the Harbinger still loomed, a menacing reminder of the challenges ahead. Yet, as she surveyed the liberated city, the cheers of the grateful populace ringing in her ears, Anya felt a flicker of something new. It wasn't just defiance. It was pride. Humanity, ostracized and ridiculed for so long, had finally taken its stand. The Lazarus effect had awakened more than just a dormant gene. It had awakened the human spirit. And that, Anya realized, was a power no weapon could ever truly conquer.